You're welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Now let's talk about the upcoming Lagos Investors Summit 2025, Invest in Lagos 2.0, which will take place on Wednesday, July the 9th at the Eco Convention Center in Victoria Island. This major event, which is being hosted by the Lagos State Government in partnership with key conveners, including the Sterling One Foundation, the Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council, and of course, Arise Media Group, is designed to attract capital into Lagos' most promising investment-ready projects. For greater understanding of what this exciting event entails, especially from the transportation infrastructure point of view, we're now being joined by Abimbola Akinajo, who is the Managing Director of Lagos Metropolitan Area Transport Authority, LAMATA. Good to have you on the morning show, Mr. Akinajo. Good morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right.
Countdown.
Okay. So as we count down to Wednesday, July the 9th, can you tell us a bit more about your role, and I'm talking LAMATA, in this year's summit and how it connects to the whole Lagos broader investment drive?
Thank you. So, as you say, I'm the Managing Director of LAMATA, that's Lagos Metropolitan Area Transport Authority. We're responsible for public transportation in Lagos. When I say responsible for public transportation, that means we're responsible for planning it, we're responsible for implementing infrastructure for it, we're responsible for franchising, and we're responsible for regulating it. So everything public transport sits with LAMATA. From where we sit, we are a key part of this summit, because if we all know, the themes agenda speaks to transportation as a start. In any city, having a good transport system says that our economy moves, everything moves. We're all able to connect with work, with leisure, and with academics. So the ability to ensure that we implement public transport infrastructure excellently is necessary for growth. And from that perspective, Lagos State has recognized that to be able to do this, we need the private sector. And that's why we will be presenting a number of project-ready transport infrastructure at the summit.
Okay. And which of these project-ready infrastructures would you be presenting at the summit? Like, what can investors experience?
So if you know what we do, we deal with buses and we deal with rail systems. So we have rail projects that are project-ready. We have bus projects that are project-ready. So from that perspective, there'll be a number of those that we will be presenting. We have within the Strategic Transport Master Plan. So let us start from there. Lagos has a Strategic Transport Master Plan. And what that does is that's where we sort of feed the projects that we implement. For Lagos, there's a plan, and that plan is being implemented over years. So within the Strategic Transport Master Plan, we have 6 rail lines. To date, we have implemented 2, at least first phases of 2. There's still 4 in the pipeline, and we will be presenting a number of those at the summit. There's a number of
investors.
To investors, yes. There's a number of the bus systems that are also available for development. What sits within the Strategic Transport Master Plan is 13 BRT routes. Now, out of the 13, Lagos has already done 3 of them, and they are functional today. We will also be presenting the ability to increase not just the BRT infrastructure, but also rolling stock to supplement and to ensure the success of those lines. So those are the sorts of projects we'll be talking about.
Amazing. So how would you say Lagos is positioning itself as to attract institutional capital or private equity into critical sectors?
So I think from Lagos's perspective, first of all, we understand that there is a need for us to be project ready, to understand what the city needs. And that is demonstrated not just in our Strategic Transport Master Plan, it's demonstrated in the development roadmap that the state has, the 30-year development roadmap that the state has put out. What that says is that the state has looked at this, the entirety of its state and has determined what we require to ensure that the economy of the city grows as the city grows, as the state grows. So what are we doing to be ready for investors? We're ensuring, as I said before, to be project ready, but also to demonstrate to investors that this is the business that we understand. So for instance, for LAMATA, we have worked with major financial institutions. We've worked with AFD, we've worked with AFDB, we've worked with the World Bank, we've worked with GIZ, UNEP. We have delivered projects that have been funded by these funders. We also have private sector funders working with us. Yeah. So in terms of the buses, for instance, we have private sector people coming to say they want to partner with Lagos. And all of that comes with a level of transparency that makes the public say, yes, we will work with you. The ability to demonstrate good governance structure. We are ISO certified. And when we work, it is on a transparent procurement system. So that gives private sector good levels of comfort and confidence in the system that we're putting out.
All right. How does this summit support the themes agenda? And of course, Governor Sanwo-Olu's vision for a 21st century economy in Lagos. That's part one. And then secondly, I would also like you to speak about the sort of things that investors, particularly, internationally, will be looking at. You have a vast experience, abroad. I believe, London, underground transport and all of that. Knowing how things work abroad, what do you think that investors here will be looking at, particularly in a state like Lagos, and especially in a sector like transportation?
Okay, so how do we support the themes agenda?
Yeah.
The themes agenda speaks to the willingness of this government to drive certain things, a number of pillars, and that's what that stands for. T is the very first pillar, and that is transportation and traffic management. So, and it is from a perspective that you understand that for any city to grow, it must be able to move its people, because it is mobility that ensures economic growth. It is mobility that ensures that you and I can get to work. It is mobility that ensures students can get to school. It is mobility that ensures that I am not wasting my time sitting in traffic, but I am using my time to be productive. So that is how, and there will be various other facets of that themes agenda that will be presented on the day. For me, I am sitting in the perspective of transportation. So when we look at what we feel from a Lagos's perspective, or from Lamata's perspective, as well as Lagos, what will private sector be looking for? What will international private sector be looking at? One of the things that's key is that we must deal with all the issues that surround the project. It's not just the technical. It's not just about, I have a project, technically it is viable. It has to engage socially. You have to have prepared yourself, so you have a detailed feasibility study, you have an environment social impact assessment done, so that you understand how that project will impact the society, the social impacts, the environmental impacts, because those are things that international funders will look at to ensure that you are not causing adverse issues in the environment and also socially. And if you do, how do you intend to deal with it? Because projects will always impact you societally. It will always impact the environment, but it is necessary that you understand that impact and you deal with it and you provide ways and means in which those things will be done. And like I said before, there's levels of transparency that they would be looking to find, and quality assurances as to how you carry out what you do carry out. And that's why we feel, for us, we're in that space already.
Yeah. You said that Lamata is ISO certified?
Yes, we are.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Now, I wanted to ask about risk, because a lot of local investors, I would say Nigerian investors are risk averse, or maybe most. And when it comes to working with government or working with a state government, a lot of people perceive it as highly risky. So how do you convince those type of investors that it is a risk worth taking? And the second leg of my question has to do with, as Lagos moves towards becoming a mega city and a city of the future, a lot of people feel that the poorest end of society is being left behind. You've spoken about social impact. What mitigating, what do you do to mitigate those factors and the people who are displaced for the rail lines or displaced for the routes? So I'd say those are the two questions.
Okay.
Yes.
So risk. Like you say, every project comes with risk. And I think you're right, most of Lagos is risk averse. But at least for Lagos, they're starting to see levels of continuity within Lagos systems. Governments have come and governments have gone, and our projects have remained. And I think that in itself is something that sells Lagos to the investing public. The fact that Lagos is always willing to sit with what it has promised to do. But beyond that, we have a very strong PPP office that is well positioned to ensure that we have strong contractual documents that both parties would have interrogated from a risk perspective. And I think that's one of the strong points that Lagos has, that strong PPP office that works. So when we are talking investment, Lamata sits in its technical capacity, but we work with the PPP office as well as the Ministry for Commerce to ensure that that project actually will be sustainable from a risk perspective as well. And the second question you asked me was about social impacts and what are we doing. Now, Lagos State, I think, is, well, when we look at Lamata in particular, we did the red line and we did the blue line. In the red line in particular, we dealt with over 5,000 PAPs, project affected persons. And we started off with an environmental social impact assessment. We understood all of the people that would be displaced. We had strong advocacy positions with them, and every person was compensated. For the first time in Lagos, we actually compensated also tenants. And what that does is, and I'm sure that for a project that size, there has been very minimal public outcry as to displacements. That is a space that Lagos is moving into to ensure that displacements will happen, but we will ensure that they are dealt with in a fair manner. And I think that is commendable for Lagos.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I want to talk about, smaller businesses that are in the same line, especially with regards to the Lagos Investors Summit 2025. How would you say this event is also going to bring together and support some of these businesses that are required to also grow in, the fastest growing economy in Nigeria at this time, and Africa?
Okay. So the growth of a small business, a lot of times, is dependent on the growth of larger businesses. And I think that's the bottom line. So when we say we have a real infrastructure project or a real system that has existed, there are commensurate small businesses that it will generally birth, it will generally develop, and it will generally grow. And I think that's the bottom line, because small businesses will feed the medium-sized and the large-sized business, because that's the way the system works. If I have, for instance, the system of ticketing, we have smaller businesses that are helping us with ticketing, and they have been working with Lamata for nearly 5 years. So as certain things grow, it will develop other smaller businesses, and it will allow them to grow. So as we grow, everybody will grow together. It is stagnation that ensures that other small businesses will not grow.
All right, before we allow you to go, just very quick one. Are the calorie cards still working? And then secondly, if you are able to pull the right investment, which of the real networks will be next? Is it the green or the yellow, and where will it cover?
Okay. So the carry card still works.
They
I am
still work.
proud to say that today we have over 5 million cards in circulation. We use the carry card on every regulated transport system, the rail, the buses, as well as waterways. And that's a huge, because what that does for the investors is also revenue assurance. So people come and they see that, okay, I can see where my money is coming from on a daily basis. And I think, so that is a good success story for Lagos. With regard to what is next, we actually have 2 major rail lines in the pipeline. We have the green and we have the purple. The green, we're working with federal government, who will fund it with private sector, and that goes from Marina to Lekki Free Trade Zone. That's the entirety of its length. Any rail system will be built in phases. And I always say, Lagos is now moving in the direction of rail systems. A rail line will go from one end to the other, but when we start to have connectivity in our rail lines, we're now talking about a rail system. And that's when we're now integrating those rail lines with bus routes as well as ferry routes. Lagos is now in the good business of good public transport. So after that is the purple line, which we actually pitched in Rabat last year, the Africa AFDB Summit. And we got very, very good responses to that. And that's also still available because AFDB is stepping up to be the deal pusher, but they're looking for other investors to join in. So those are the next two as far as we're concerned. But we still have two other ones that we can still pitch.
All right, Mrs. Akinajo, we want to thank you for joining us on the
Thank you
morning
so
show.
much.
And we look forward to July the 9th
Yes.
for the summit.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.
Thank you.